Are we close to the technological takeover? Let's talk about it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Average American Podcast. This is your host, Nathan Tate. I'm back to talk about technology and the effects it has on all of us. And I think most of us are aware of a lot of these effects. Hey, I'm as addicted to my phone, my PlayStation, fucking YouTube, just as much as everybody else, man. I legitimately, I listen to podcasts all day while I'm at work. So trust me, I'm as in deep on the technology as anyone else is. But I think we really have to start asking ourselves, Blanche, you fucking kidding me? Stop it. We have to start asking ourselves if or when technology becomes too much. And it seemed cool at first. When AI came around, and it was a couple years ago, and everything still looked pretty fake, but you could do some cool shit with it. Sorry. And you know, the Will Smith, this is a famous one, is Will Smith eating spaghetti was just terrible, and you could tell it was fake and all that. And then last year, the Yeti videos came around. I don't know if anybody else saw that. They were huge on my feed. I thought they were hilarious, but it's a Yeti running away in the forest, away from stuff, saying we're cooked chat, and just the euphemisms and shit. But it was funny. But after you kind of saw what happened with Massey's election, where they used AI video to manipulate boomers, um, at least a portion of them, into believing that he had relations with Ilhan Omar and AOC, you kind of, and listen, I fall victim to it too. Sometimes there's been an occasional AI video where I'm so close to believing it's real, or I do initially believe it's real until upon further examination, I'm like, there's a couple of inconsistencies here, but they're right there, man. It's right there to, and don't get me wrong, I've said this where it can be a tool for good, but the thing is, we don't stop at the point in which it's a tool, right? We're not stopping it. We're like, oh, how do we make this thing more efficient in helping people? How do we make this thing so efficient it replaces people? And there's this weird thing we have as human beings where we're so Jesus, individualistic. Thank you. Where we don't believe it could happen to us. You know what I mean? My brother, I've been warning him and my other friends about this for a while, that AI is going to take your job. And it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it'll be here before you know it. Okay? That Will Smith stuff was a couple years ago. We're talking a couple years. In a couple years, how far along do you think it will be? I just read that, was it GM replaced 1,000 workers with 50 machines in Detroit. Now, I didn't check to verify the source, so maybe that could be wrong. I don't know. But the whole point is that's what they're going for. That's what we're aiming for. And you have people in the comments who are like, if they want to keep up with the people overseas, that's just how you got to do it. It's just this weird acceptance of there's no resistance. And I think this is where you have to give them credit for their propaganda, is that there's been no resistance to this technological wave that's just simplified and made our lives easier, but it's also made us complacent. It's also made us stupid. The reliance on technology to, you can just look up anything and you don't have to have any information. And I get that, but you don't retain anything. If you don't have to actively work to learn shit, then you don't have, any reason to retain it, because anytime you need it, you can just search for it and prove a point correct, or prove yourself incorrect, but then stand vehemently on it because you disagree with what you found on the internet. The whole point is, I thought, when I was listening to Tim Dillon's episode, and I listened to it a couple times, and listen, Tim Dillon, flirts between being very funny and being very serious. And I thought in this moment he was being very serious, and I found it to be very interesting that he brought up, um, they have this under 16 ban for no social media in the UK that they're getting ready to implement. I think. I don't know the entire terms of it. I really should look into it before I speak too heavily on it. But I thought he had a good point about what he was saying. Where he was talking about it's so your kids don't have any, you know, exterior ideas to, state-run media, so to speak. Which I don't know if that's everything, but that's definitely something. You know, it's much more beneficial for them if they don't see these opposing opinions of what they're trying to push out. You know, especially when you see what's going on in Ireland and Belfast and stuff like this, and the Irish fighting back and not, laying down, and they're having to export immigrants to, excuse me, to England, to the UK, and yeah, it's because the Irish don't give a shit. Like, you fucking tried to decapitate a immigrant tried to decapitate a man in the middle of the street, and they said fuck that. But anyway, it all rounds itself back around to say that, like, if you're not exposed to any of that, it's the same thing as the boomers, right? They just watch the Fox News, the CNN, the MS Now, the NBC, all that shit. And that's their news. That's their source of news. And they're trying to recreate that. It seems like to me anyway. Or like in Australia, where their technology ban for social media was on like everything but Blue Sky. And Blue Sky's incredibly left wing. Like, you can see what they're trying to do. And I'm not saying you're wrong for being, a liberal, and you're not wrong for being a Republican, but I think you should be introduced to all ideas and allowed to work out for yourself what you believe in. Um, it's the same thing as like a lot of black people maybe started as Christian and converted to being, the black Israelites, or they're Muslim, any of that kind of stuff. Like, that's all within your right of choice. And they're slowly working their ways to try to eliminate that choice. And the reason it's so important to bring down America is because we have certain freedoms that have never been given out. The freedom of speech has not been something that is protected in any other nation. Maybe only by the incitement of violence by the standing population, such as with Ireland. But, it's a situation where we have freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, gun rights. The government can't enter your home, like no forced quarter, which is the Fourth Amendment. Oh, I think there's something else that goes in the Fourth Amendment, but that's the part that really stands out to me. And I think that really only applies in wartime, but it was huge when they made the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So there's a lot of things that go into it. The Fifth Amendment is super important to not incriminate yourself, so you do not have to speak without a legal representative. Like, that matters and has held people in their cases when they were actually innocent. Like, there are situations set and baked into what the Americans have. And you just kind of see where they're trying to use technology to circumvent this shit. With the FISA 702, the Patriot Act, which was way back when we didn't have this level of technology, but you could see where it was going. The flock cameras. I mean, obviously, the whole argument, and I said this in the last video, is strictly talking about like security and surveillance. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, you could say it's for safety, but Ben Franklin, founder of the country, by the way, much smarter than a lot of the individuals we have now. And it's really important that we remember that Washington, Franklin, Jefferson, John Adams, Hancock, who famously had all these guys were in their early to mid 20s. They were not old people. They were not these incredibly time-tested individuals who gained their wisdom through longevity. They gained their wisdom through experience and understanding. And they had the will to say, like, we are going to revolt against this and we will not allow this to happen. And, I don't know at what point that would happen for the American people. I'm not sure what would have to happen for us to feel the need to do a revolution, so to speak. But I don't think a revolution comes in that kind of way anyway. I think a revolution would come through policy change and the proper leaders getting into place and stuff. If we want the country to stay intact, that is. But um, Benjamin Franklin said, "A man who is willing to give up liberty for security deserves neither." And that's simply to say that if you think that sacrificing your individual rights and liberties for safety, you will not retain either one of those. The security that you think you will get, such as you'll see people post, and sometimes I really think the dead internet theory thing is correct. Like, only like 10% of the internet is actually people, and most of it's just bots and fabricated fucking individuals. Because I read stuff and I go, there's no way you really fucking think that way. There's no way you think that way. There's no way that you look at all this surveillance and you go, well, if you had nothing to hide, shouldn't be a problem. What the fuck are you talking about? How are we even having this conversation? The respect of an individual's right to privacy is more important than whatever safety or security you would feel. I don't give a fuck what it's related to. And so we see them trying to circumnavigate our Constitution with big tech, the AI data centers, all kinds of shit like that. And you see it with these young kids that are at their graduations booing AI and stuff. They're really trying to shove this shit down our throats. And I'm sorry, but I really, unfortunately, don't believe that we will stand in the way of it before it's too late. That's almost always the way it works. The American Revolution is one of those instances where they didn't wait too long. But in most instances in history, they waited too long. And then famine and death and destruction and all these things, these terrible shit had to happen. You know what I mean? And all we have is a bunch of fucking pussies who are bought out by the lobbyists. And it's that old saying that hard times create soft men and soft men create hard times. And we're looking currently at our system, our structure as the soft men, because most of society has become soft men because it's become so easy for them that it's going to create some very hard times that they're not going to have to deal with because most of them will have all the money or the power or the resources or whatever the fuck to protect themselves. And at a certain point, you're going to have to ask yourself if you really think these individuals are on your side. And I've never once believed that the government was really on my side. I believe that there were occasional times in which their policy may have been about the best interest, but I personally don't believe there's any policy that they implement that is for the interest of the individual and only serves an overall purpose for themselves. Even the Supreme Court Supreme Court ruled that um, transitioning children lies with the parents. The education of it, the act of it, all this stuff lies with the parents. And I think that's a massive victory culturally from the psychopaths on the fucking left that think that trans kids are a fucking thing. Sorry, I just don't agree with that. But even that, I think there's something in there. I don't fully believe that that's just for because they give a fuck about kids. It's to earn votes or something. It's got to be something. I'm sorry. You've pulled the wool on me too many times. I don't believe you anymore. There's no reason to fucking believe you anymore. And until you start showing some integrity, there's no reason to believe. The only reason we're not still bombing the fuck out of Iran is because we can't win. If we thought that we could get them to capitulate by just without having to do a nuke or a ground invasion, we'd fucking do it. Oh, goodness. So it's just one of those things where I don't know how much longer it'll take, but I imagine AI will have taken a significant portion of jobs before people will really start to feel a certain way. You're going to have to start affecting a lot of people's lives before they're really going to start making some noise. And my real concern is that the people with the haves will be able to pacify the people in the middle for as long as they stay the people in the middle until they become either the people that have or the people that don't. And I got to be honest, that's probably my biggest fear about all of this. Because with 1,500 data centers being built, roughly that's what's scheduled, I think. It's about 1,500 data centers, and this forced wave of AI and how much better it's going to make everything, and it's going to give you all your freedom and everything, and instead it'll take away your autonomy, your ability to control the outcomes for yourself. You'll be dictated by the people in charge because they'll be the ones who hold the resources, and so they'll tell you what resources you can have. So, not trying to be all doom and gloom, but I just was listening to him and I thought a lot about the technological advancements that we're making. And you wonder, you heard, if you've ever heard of the Younger Dryas impact and kind of what happened to them, and you wonder if something similar happened. Does each society, do we rotate societies? And each one brings about a different form of destruction relative to the technological advancements that it makes, whether it be from an environmental impact or a human one. Do we always become this kind of creature that um, proceeds forward well above its ability to comprehend what it's creating until the point in which what's creation outpaces itself? And then we succumb to, I don't know, whatever dystopian future is in promise for the people that were not strong enough to stand up to it, and the people who were strong enough will be eliminated. So, I don't know. Um, Sorry, that was like a dark ass fucking rant, but that's just kind of where it feels like we're headed right now. I really hope I'm wrong. I hope in 5 years that I am doing great and everybody's doing great and there's so much abundance, like Elon's tried to suggest. Which, I like Elon for whatever he is, an entrepreneur and all that shit, but I don't believe that the guy who's also investing in AI and technology and built, the very sustainable electric car model and all that shit in the US is really the fucking guy I should be asking about. Because it's not like he's going to be. I mean, the dude just became a trillionaire. This isn't going to have anything to do with him. He's clearly going to fucking um, be fine no matter what happens. No matter how much someone else in power hates him. He has significantly more power than any of the leftists that hate him. So, I don't give a fuck. He's got more money than all of them. Which means he's got more pull than all of them. At least in the world we have now. I don't know what the future looks like, but either way, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Sorry if that darkened your day, but we'll try to come back with something a little bit more positive. Um, in the meantime, everybody, have a good rest of your week. Thanks. Peace.